I the astronaut for treating my two sets of nephews differently because of their parents? I took the older son to his sport every week for more than a year when it was supposed to be only the first few weeks with the new baby. I once baked the birthday cake for his oldest third birthday, and since then it is expected that I do this every year. Intricate cakes, for example, looking like a Ninjago. He expects me to be able to babysit very last minute. I do really love my nephews and want them to have everything, so I go along with a lot of it. I never get a thank you, never get informed about special circumstances beforehand, like the kid hurt his leg and can't do anything too active, small stuff like that. Because I felt that my brother treated me like a babysitter that he didn't even pay and he wasn't even nice to, I started doing less and less with the kids. My sister and I have a strong relationship even though she lives a 2-hour drive away. I also love her sons and enjoy spending time with them. I don't know if it makes any difference, but my sister's youngest is also my godson. When I spend time with them, she informs me beforehand about those special circumstances, which makes my time with the kids so much easier. She thanked me at the end of the day and gave me the diapers I needed when the kids were smaller, normal stuff I would usually expect from everyone whose kids I would take care of. She lives a bit too far away to visit after work, so sometimes I send letters to her kids with pictures, short stories, etc. Also, ASMR Diet Coke cracking time over there. You heard it. My sister recently had to quarantine with both kids for 2 weeks, so I sent letters more frequently and we FaceTimed a lot as well when they weren't allowed to leave the house. Now my mother and my brother are hounding me that I clearly prefer my sister's sons over my brother's and that when I spent more time with them, in person or otherwise, I am obligated to do the same for the other two. This is not limited to the extra time I spent on my sister and her kids during quarantine, but it kind of started the discussion. In all honesty, I noticed that I do tend to shy away a bit more from spending time with my brother's kids. This is mostly about him, though, and how he tends to treat me. Also, I work full-time and only have a limited amount of time to spend on my nephews. For me, it makes sense to spend this time on whoever makes me happy and doesn't stress me out, which more often than not means my sister and her kids over my brother and his kids. Am I the astronaut for not spending equal amounts of time and effort on both sets of nephews? Yeah, Krista Museum Girl, I agree with you here. There's no obligation. There is no obligation. It is an NTA. I'd like to dig into it a little bit more though, because it's a bullshit request. It's a bullshit request from the son, right? Or brother, from OP's brother. So OP has a brother with kids and a sister with kids. The brother doesn't communicate well, or the brother's family doesn't communicate well, doesn't keep things in stock, is always last minute, just abuses the babysitting privileges, basically. Sister does not, which creates a much more positive experience. So if they want to bitch about you being compelled to spend more time and energy on your sister and her kids, they should feel compelled to figure out why that is. And instead of just bitching about it, find some kind of solution. It wasn't a, hey, why, right? It was a, you're shitty for doing it. I don't think it doesn't sound like there was any delve into trying to understand the motivators behind it. They just wanted to bitch about them not getting something that someone else got. Well, if they put the same amount of effort forth and care and consideration that she does for the limited amount of time that you watch her kids, you would be excited. It wouldn't be a negative experience. And that's what it comes down to. Because of how your brother treats you in this space, you have now related watching those kids as a negative experience, because it is a negative experience. Not because of the kids, because of him, because of their parents. The inverse here is the sister, and you relate this to a positive experience because it is a positive experience. Because there's no bullshit. There's no shitty last minute communication. There's no treating you like garbage. It is all positives. Of course, you are drawn to something that makes you happy rather than drawn to something that stresses you the F out. Of course. You have no obligation to treat anybody equally. None. And if anything here, I would stress this to your brother and say, do you know why? Do you know why I choose to spend more time and energy and focus here? Do you know why? And see what happens. Explain the root cause. See if that does anything. Truly me, Izzy, I understand. The brother's kids didn't do anything wrong. However, I mean, unfortunately, you cannot separate that, right? You cannot separate them from their parents, and the whole experience becomes a negative. And I'm sure this isn't isolated to just OP here. I'm sure this has to do with a lot of things for those kids because of how their parents are. And that's just, you can't escape your parents, at least when you're a minor, when you're a dependent, right? You can't. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in their life think this about their parents. There's nothing they can do about that. And yeah, I understand they didn't do anything wrong, but brother can't be bitching about OP wanting to do something that makes her happy versus wanting to stress herself out. That's it. It is unfortunate. It is definitely unfortunate, but there's no obligation. Am I the astronaut for treating my two sets of nephews differently because of their parents? The two sets of parents treat you differently, OP. Do they have an obligation to treat you exactly the same? And maybe that's the way to put it. If I have an obligation to do the same with the nephews, you have an obligation to treat me the same as our sister does. Pretty simple. Pretty simple.